Hey everyone, and welcome to the Infinite Respawn podcast. I'm Chicken.
I'm Oak Tree.
I'm Griff.
I'm Baka.
What's up, guys?
What's
up?
And Ollie, yes, in 3 days it's my birthday.
All I see is like the top of a red.
It's just a red shirt.
Yeah.
It's the meme that he's been running. Hey, Chicken's wearing a red shirt. Is his birthday? No, it is in 3 days.
I like that you say it's a meme when it's probably something like more akin to tradition in his area. I'm just saying, it's not a meme.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is that? Let's find out. I will find that out.
You should have asked him when he said something about it a year ago.
Right.
Or whenever you got that red shirt, whenever you started wearing it. I don't know when that was. Man. So I'm sure all of us have been playing, well, at least a moderate amount of Baldur's Gate. Even though you were out of town, Oak. That's not going to stop you.
I played a little. While
I
was
saw
there.
you sign into it. You can't lie to me.
Yeah, I did. I did sign it. I signed it a little bit. I didn't play that much. It was more of Maldus like looking over my shoulder, trying to see if this is a game he really wants to play or not. I know deep down he's really going to end up buying this game. He just doesn't realize he's going to.
I would not play that game in front of him for the same reason that I hate it when Chicken comes in here and looks at my characters, because the second they look at it, because they know everything already, they're like, why do you do that? Why is that there? What are you using that for? That's useless on that character. What are you doing that for? It's like, because I'm an idiot. Now leave me alone.
Yeah, let me play the fucking game how I want to. You know what?
To be fair, though, Chicken did streamline my characters. I was doing some
You play the game.
Read.
You play the game as much as you want. You do whatever the fuck you want. It's a single player game. Go ahead, blow it up if you want. I don't care. But if you ask for help, I will come in and I will give you advice. And then if you're like, well, I'm just playing it my way, you ask me for advice, so I'm gonna tell you what you can do to fix it.
Yes.
Otherwise, you're free to do whatever you want.
Mine looks like a chaotic mess, so I'm okay. But I'm okay with it because my ADHD is like, this is here, this is here, this is here, this is here.
As long as
anybody else, it looks like, oh my god, he threw everything on the floor.
I will say,
I
did notice Chicken rearranged some of my spells for the party that I've been running. I don't know why. I don't know if it might have been a mistake, but you had like most of his cantrips on one side, and you had 2 of them on the side with the level 1 spells, and I was like, why are these here?
Who?
Moved them
On
for
Gale?
Gale, yeah. You had the Firebolt and the Ice Ray on the same side as all of his level 1 stuff, and I was like, those are cantrips. They're going to go over here with the cantrips. They're going to go over here with the things that I can use all the time without spending anything.
Right.
I don't know why I would have done that, because I usually do a pretty good job of keeping cantrips.
I think you were probably rearranging and you left them there by mistake because his bars are still unlocked too.
Yeah, that's very possible.
So, you know what though? It really doesn't matter because Gale can't hit to save his life. Like literally, he is almost dead and just needs to do one thing to do 1 point of damage, and he just can't manage to pull himself together enough to do anything. So
the problem I have when I have Gale in the party is the fact that for some reason everybody picks on Gale.
Well, it's because he's the squishiest, so it's good.
Yeah, but I can have Gale in a back corner, hidden behind a fucking wall, and they're gonna come find me.
Yeah. I mean, I do the literal same thing with Asterion. Like, if I see anything that does casting anything, Asterian's like, I'll be right back, and just Misty steps back to the back line and goes, how you doing? I'm going to have to kill you real quick. It's not personal, but I'm about to assassinate that ass. And then, like, straight murders him. And since he's a mage hunter, too, whenever they try to cast to get away, he gets an attack immediately and usually ends up killing him. And then he's like, okay, deuces, and just hides and slinks away. He is so Asterion like that, at least in my mind, where he's just like, all right, here I am. Also, if he doesn't kill them, he'll bite them too. That's what he does, assuming he can.
I was just saying, the fight that I was just in the last 24 hours was people that he couldn't do anything with, so.
We have to be minor on spoilers because Baka has just fully started his campaign.
I didn't say anything about who I was fighting.
Yay.
I know, I'm just saying.
He's started like 4 times. He's playing with who he wants to play with.
Yeah.
So
I made a joke character.
See, I can't do that. Like, you are super good at that, but I can't. Like, I can't. Even if the games are funny, like Saints Row, I can't make a joke character and play it. I have to play a legitimate character for me.
I gotta play my character. Well, I'm actually surprised that I end up like sticking with the druid. I was like, I'll try druid and see how it is, and I've just been like stuck with him. I was like, oh, he fits my comp so well. It's just, I'm in Act 3 now, by the way.
I'm not.
Oh, good for you.
I'm
still not in Act 2 yet, so
I totally get why they've been patching Act 3 for optimization things. Act 3 is huge. It is huge. It is weighted to, like, there are, I don't know, on one of the scenes there was like 75 NPCs just walking around. Some you couldn't interact with, some you could. They were all doing their own thing. It's like, oh, I could definitely see why Act 3 is hard to run.
There's so many people around.
There's a dude that was talking about Act 3, and even after the patches, he was talking about this. He said, let me tell you about Act 3. Act 3 is much better, and he said, but it's still not as good as 1 and 2 to me. But he said, I will say this. 2 of the things that happen in Act 3 are my favorite part of the entire game.
I mean, I've heard that
and that's surprising. Like, you think about how 1 and 2 are. Like, everybody talks about 1 and 2, and the fact that the favorite thing that they happened in the game happened to be in Act 3 is pretty impressive.
Like, to put it into non-spoiler text, like, you get a good story bump, but it's not like serious in Act 1, and then you get some pretty good story bumps. Wait, you're looking at the hill when I've seen the mountain.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, it's still, imminent
like,
death
you get
is
some
probably
story
not the
bumps
easiest thing to just be like, that's fine.
Yeah, but Act 2 has some story bumps, which are good. I like them. They're fun, but the story bumps in 1 are better, in my opinion, until you get to the end of it, where you are looking up a mountain at that point with some of the reveals, and you're like,
well,
holy shit. Then
I'll
right
die.
at the beginning of Act 3, it does it even more, and you're like, wow, okay. And then it kind of just opens up the doors at that point to the story fully, so that you can kind of get into it more so. It's good. It is really good. The beat at the end of Act 2 and the beginning of Act 3 is really good, setting the stage for the finale.
Well, I haven't gotten there yet, so don't tell me.
I'm not. I'm just saying it is good. It is well written, which, I mean, I expect from Larian at this point. It is good. It is really good.
Well, I haven't run into a lot of technical problems that some people have.
Wait till Act 3.
Chicken, earlier when you asked how that fight that I was doing went, you remember when I mentioned that the boss got stuck in a falling animation?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it just took all of his turns, so...
Oh, lucky you.
Yeah. He slipped. Finally, missed a save because literally everybody in his little band of merry idiots could save for everything. Like, oh, this is like a charisma save and you have a charisma of 8. All of you passed it. There's 7 of you. How is this possible? But
math doesn't work very well.
I feel like the game is slanted against me a lot, but he got stuck in a slip animation on some ice, which was convenient because it was literally right in front of 2 of my characters. And I was like, this is going to break combat. But it didn't. It just made him pass his turn every time because he was stuck. So all I had to deal with was his other friends, which were
I've had that happen
like
a few times with with a couple of minion type people. I've had that happen a couple times. But it wasn't like a slip, a fall. It was just one of those where it was like, oh, here's a chest laying on the ground. I can't figure out how to get around this. So,
I haven't,
and they're like a melee only character or something like that.
But I was
like, okay, I'm not mad at this.
Yeah, it's like I would be upset if it was my character that was stuck in this loop of falling, but it's your character and I need to murder you, so I think that's okay for right now. We'll just let it go.
I ran into one bug in a combat where ads were spawned. I killed one and it died, but it didn't get removed off the turn order. And there was nothing I could do to basically remove it. It was stuck in the turn order. So what that means is that even after the full fight was over, combat never necessarily ended because of that thing dying and getting stuck in combat. So I had to reset all the way to the point before that thing died, which was almost at the beginning of that fight. I was very upset about it. I made sure that everything died and fell off the turn order that time. So just beware when you kill something, make sure it falls off the turn order, because if not, you're just going to get stuck in that combat forever. Wow. And that combat will not technically resolve. So
what act was that in?
It was Act 2.
Okay.
But so if it's a bug, it can happen anywhere.
It can. I'm just wondering if it's more likely to happen in that act versus the others, just because of optimization.
Yeah, very possible.
Yeah.
So just be aware of that and try to save, because I save all the time during combat, after combat, during dialogue, like everything, because you don't know.
Save.
when something's gonna happen. I mean, I even had one time where one of my NPCs didn't show up in the cutscene, and it was just talking to air, and the air was talking back. I was like, this is a little weird. I need to reload this and see if they'll load in, and they did. So.
I'm glad that kind of glad that Kat got to see it, and can't remember if Baka was in there or not. But I was playing and Kat was watching, and I had saved during some dialogue, so it was one of those things where I had to reload it, and it tries to reload to the same place. But my character was sitting on the ground having this conversation with another character, and so when I reloaded the camera pans in from the sky and comes down, so it's like instead of it being further away than it should, where you got your character centered, it was literally like her right here, and it made her do the cross-eyed thing for some reason. And so she was sitting here like, "Durr," and I'm like, no. I had to reload it like 4 times, and it did it every time. I was like, no, please don't make her look so dumb. Oh, it hurts. It was a good one though. That's one of those like Dragon Age Frostbite engine fails.
But this whole last month, I have been enjoying the shit out of this game. It is so good, and I cannot wait to play another round.
I know.
Too. Everything that I have heard is everybody has to play the Dark Urge playthrough at least once, because the game, like the people who have played it, have said the game is built around that story itself because of how good it is.
I just think that I'd have to. I know that you can play it as like lean into the bad or try to resist the bad. I think I'd have to play the resist part because I can't do it. I can't make mean choices because I feel too bad for the little pixel people.
But that's part of the fun of it, is that you have to actually play against that side. It's not just, I'm making these all these choices. Those repercussions, if you force yourself down the good path, actually have repercussions on your character and change the story arc of your character. Because it's not some made up character. That character has an entire backstory that comes into play as you play through based on where your choices lead them down. So it's super interesting because that one,
the replayability of this game is insane to me. What I'm really interested to see is, especially since you can play with the different origin characters too, like those two. Like I want to know what happens, like, because we're a month since the game was released.
1 month. Yep.
Okay, 1 month since the game was originally released. I'm interested to see how many people are like through most of the origin characters too, along with their original playthrough. And like, because if you're doing it, and I'm talking about like a thorough playthrough too, I'm not talking about somebody trying to speed run the damn game. I want a thorough playthrough. Like I'm talking 100+ hours of getting through the game and doing it, and then kind of see what their thought process is. Like, are they going to turn around and go, oh, playing as this character was brilliant. This one over here was okay.
I saw a thing on Reddit that said the Karlach Lae'zel romance is incredibly wholesome. I'm like, that is something I did not expect, but which side of that did you play? I wonder. Like, were you the Karlach?
Yeah, that's interesting.
But apparently it was like super good. All of the comments were like, yeah, that's amazing. So
I will say the one huge like major difference between playing an origin character versus playing your PC is that you're the silent protagonist when you're your PC, but when you're playing an origin character, you're not. They self-narrate, so you actually hear
I didn't know
the
that.
character talking. So if you make a choice, they're talking to themselves, so you actually get to experience the story from their perspective.
I like that too.
I like no idea.
Like that's why you, like Oak said, the replayability of this thing is unsurmountable, because playing it through each of these characters, taking them different routes, seeing the different things, making different choices on all of them, there's so much to this game that is unbelievable. I think one of the articles said that they had 248 voice acting and mocap actors. That's a lot of people.
Cast.
That is as many people as some studios have employees.
Yeah.
And that's just for the acting side of it. So, I mean, if you're gonna support a company, get on there. And like, kudos to them. They made a brilliant game. And
if you like this one and you're looking for something in the same vein that's not, like you're like, I'm just going to give it a minute before I do another playthrough, Divinity, definitely. Both
Divinity Original Sin 2 hit that shit.
Yeah, hit that one. You're probably going to like it a lot. So, I'm just saying.
Yeah, they were at PAX, which I thought it was kind of funny because their game had already released for PC anyway. It hadn't released yet for PlayStation at the time. It was the lead up to that, so I'm guessing that's why they were there. But their booth was full the whole time.
Oh,
It was
no
sure
doubt,
was.
no
it was
doubt.
so great. And I was sitting there going, I wonder how many of these people actually own the game that has sat in this line for 2 hours just to play the opening scene.
Just to
Definitely.
see them, just to see the people that were responsible for this
Yeah.
thing. It's
This
like,
is
oh
like
god,
Peak
let me just shake
gaming
your hand.
experience right now.
Thank
so.
you.
I said at a bar one night, and it was right after the show ended, and where we stay is like really close to the convention itself. And I'm sitting at the bar, and two guys come in from Larian, and they have their Baldur's Gate shirts on and all that stuff, and sit down at the end. I can hear their accents, and I go, "Oh, I really want to say something. I really want to say." But I
You
was
should've
like,
just
"Nope,
been
not
like, hey, do you
bothering
guys
them.
work at?
They
you
are
guys work
off
at
work.
Larian?
They are off work. I am not gonna bother them when they're off work. Not gonna do
Yeah,
it."
but come on, it's at a convention thing. They're always on work.
Yeah.
And like giving them at least being like, hey, I appreciate the work you have done on that game. It is probably one of the best games I have ever played. I just want to say thank you.
It was.
That's the kind of stuff they live for, man.
I don't doubt it. I just don't like bothering people when they get off work because I don't like to be bothered when I get off work. So, but it's just it was their entire area that they had. It was a pretty big booth. Like it was one of the larger booths that was there. But it looked like it was part of like it was just like walled in, but it looked like it was material from the actual game, the bricks and stuff that they used. And then they had like a miniature of the ship crashed at the top of the thing. And so you had like the tentacles and stuff that would come off.
It's pretty cool.
And then then they had Lae'zel and Astarion. They had cosplayers for that you get pictures made with. And then they had, I didn't see it until later, they had just a statue of one of the mind flayers that you could get a picture made with. But later on, I saw somebody walking around coming out of that booth. So I know it wasn't just a person dressed that way. It was the actual Larian person coming out.
Who is it?
Huh?
I said, who is it?
It was a mind flayer.
Yeah.
Oh, damn.
It was another mind flayer. The costume was fantastic. Had red eyes and everything, like lit up red eyes. It was awesome. And I was like, okay, that is badass.
Damn.
But so I guess people were getting picture made with that person as well. That was kind of cool. I didn't go over there that much because I was like, all right, I already addicted this game enough. But it was at one point nearly a 2-hour wait just for their merch. And I'm gonna tell you, their merch sucked.
Did it? Oh, that's
like because
sad.
most of it was Divinity Original Sin 2 stuff.
Yeah.
And there wasn't a whole lot of Baldur's Gate stuff. And I saw it day one, so it's not like they'd sold out of all the shit. Like I saw it early day one. And they had a couple of shirts, and the shirts were okay. But majority of the stuff was for all of their games. And I think there's a new I don't know if it's new, but Divinity Original Sin has a board game now.
Yeah.
And they were selling that too. And so like people were, but that it was so long. I just wanted a pin, but they had none.
You
like,
had to get there like a week before they opened to try to get this
Yeah,
stuff.
no shit. It was ridiculous. That was one of the more busy booths. Saturday and Sunday was pretty busy in general. Friday and Monday was fantastic because everybody I guess had left, which normally it's slow anyway, but this was like normally Friday and Monday are about identical in the amount of people that were there. But Friday was a good bit busier than Monday was. Monday I showed up earlier because I wanted to play let me look at the name of it. I put stuff over the side so I know what I was.
I like that you're
played.
like, I wanted to play, but I can't remember.
Yeah, well, I knew it was a Warhammer game. That's all I knew
okay,
it was.
okay.
It's a Warhammer game called Rogue Trader. It's Rogue Trader. It's a CRPG. It's going to be the first CRPG based in the Warhammer universe, is what they said. And so I played a little bit of it. Graphics wise, it kind of looks like I would say graphics wise more like Divinity Original Sin 2 versus what we're currently dealing with, Baldur's Gate. But it's also these guys, I think, first RPG that they're dealing with too. So I'm not going to knock them on that. Gameplay wise, very similar. A lot of reading versus what we're dealing with now with Baldur's Gate.
Narrating.
Well, if they're first RPG, you gotta be a little forgiving. On that side.
So they got to get to that point, right?
Exactly. What's the name of the game actually?
Rogue Trader.
They trade rogues.
They trade rogues. But it was great too, because on Sunday the guy goes, I don't see a long wait being here. You guys can play for 30, 45 minutes if you want to.
Oh hell yeah.
So I played for about 20 minutes or so and then got up and allowed somebody else to sit down because I wanted to hit some other spots that were around. I was able to play The Invincible, which we've seen a trailer for before. The Invincible is basically you're on a planet and something crazy's happened on the planet and your job is to find out what happened. That's basically what it is. And it's very sci-fi based. It looks kind of like it's going to be like Starfield or No Man's Sky or something like that, but it is not. It is not one of those. Like, it is a very pretty game. I am not knocking these people. You got people that are working from the graphics department that used to work for CD Projekt Red that are part of this. Like, this is a Polish company. They're called Starward. And they were really, really kind people. I got to talk to a good bit on developers on it. I got to talk to one of the main artists. She was the one that was helping with the line. I talked to her. She gave me a pin. She came by and gave me a pin.
Hey, you got a pin.
I did. But I think it's going to be mainly about plot line. I want to play it for the plot line because the movement of the game itself is very slow. I'm thinking more walking simulator than anything else. You're going to look at a pretty game, and you're going to be there for the plot. But they did something really neat too, to where if you went back through the line, you could play a different version of the demo, to where it wasn't the same plot. You played, the same part of the game that you played before. I played a game called Anotria, The Last Song. It is a Souls-like. It looks like Dark Souls 1 in graphics.
Oh.
Okay.
But now their presentation that they give, like they had this whole trailer, this video and everything else. And I was like, I might actually like this game. This looks really good. And then I got in front of the computer and started playing and I would go, please be like pre alpha. If this is going to be your game compared to what I just saw. But it is, so I played it a little bit. So if you see it, maybe it'll improve and look a little bit different, but graphics wise on there. I played a game called Biomorph. Biomorph is a cross between Hollow Knight and Kirby. So it is a platforming style game. Your character can beat up whatever creature it is, and then the creature's soul, basically they can suck up the soul and become that creature to make it past the next level, whatever the next puzzle is. But you also have that soul available to you until you die. You have that soul available to you to switch it anytime you want to, or until you swap to another type of being to be able to do it. There was a game called, and y'all got to see this. The name of the game is Corgi's Cozy Hike.
Oh, well, Red Rings is all in.
Right there.
Kickstarter.
It's on Kickstarter right now. This was one of the most popular booths, and it was such a tiny booth.
But it has corgis, so...
Yeah, I didn't get to play it. I just got to watch people play that one. But I thought it would be worth mentioning, especially since we have kids, because it's very kid-like game. It's supposed to be going to Steam at some point. I think they're trying to make it to where it'll eventually be on Switch and other consoles as well. And then I got to play Thank Goodness You're Here, which we've seen the trailer of that one. That's the one that's very cartoon-like. Mm-hmm. And it is by the same people that did Untitled Goose Game. So if you've played Untitled Goose Game or wanted to play Untitled Goose Game, it's very...
hasn't played it yet.
Yeah, it looks really good. And the gameplay is fun. Like, it is like playing a cartoon. It is fantastic. You're a little dude. You move your little dude around. you get to kind of fuck with everything. You just kind of like hit buttons and just
See,
knock
it's
it
called
over.
Thank Goodness You're Here, but it really means not that because you're probably just annoying the shit out of everybody.
You are helping people. I will say that you do help people, but you do it in a way that's not helpful to everybody else. So, that was pretty fun game to play. I got to play it for probably 15, 20 minutes because it was that slow on Sunday. Or on that Monday, sorry. On Sunday, I spent all day at Nintendo Live. Well, most of the day at Nintendo Live. I spent an hour and a half in line to get into Nintendo Live just to check in for Nintendo Live, and then spent another 20 minutes into another line to get into the actual door. It was supposed to be invite only, but I feel like everybody was invited that ever said that they wanted to go. But now I was able to play the new Super Mario game, Super Mario Wonder.
The one with the elephant transforming?
The one with the elephant transformation. So those are power-ups. You have like a power-up that's a drill, and they give you like different options in the game to be able to access certain things. It's up to 4 players, and they have kind of a cool concept that's set up. So let's say you fall and you die, okay? Your character becomes a ghost. All they have to do is lay up next to one of the live characters, and they'll immediately respawn. Okay. So you can move your ghost around, they can move around, you all can meet up, and boom, you go. So it's very kid-like in the fact that, you don't really die. Now, there are characters, so like the Yoshis and something else, one of the other characters, do not have power-ups available to them, but those characters can't die from any of the stuff that's in the world, so it's better for like a child unless they fall off. If they fall off, they're gonna die. No. But again, same thing, right? But they also made it to where there's certain things you can't get unless you have 2 Yoshis, because Yoshi has that little flutter jump that he does. So a Yoshi can actually ride on the back of another Yoshi. Any character can ride on the back of a Yoshi, but 2 Yoshis can ride together too. So one can actually jump up in the air, do the flutter, and the next one jump and do the flutter, and end up getting into areas that you normally wouldn't be able to get into. So they've done a really good job with that. Their online system that they've created is kind of interesting as well. So let's say you're playing a solo game and you're attached to online. You will see opaque ghost, basically, of other people playing the game at the exact same time you are.
That's so distracting.
But if you die, you just have to touch one of those other players' ghosts, and you'll end up going back through. So it does help you to be able to do it. It's a way to kind of give you a hand up, I guess, in the game. They're trying to make it as user-friendly as possible. The game itself is beautiful for a platformer. They've done a really good job, I think, with the graphics. It looks fantastic. We were playing it on, I guess they were like 52-inch screens. I sent a picture to Griff. There were massive amount of screens in this one place, but we were all playing four player. And it was a straight up Mario platformer. So everybody's, if you've played one before, you know how to play the game. There was no real extra thing in there other than the power-ups. And the power-ups are going to be your main characters. So Mario, Peach, Toad, and Luigi are all going to be able to get the power-ups. And I think there might be one more character that can. But that's about it. That's going to have But I looked forward to getting it. I was on the fence before. Now I really want to play it. After playing that, I'll play through it solo most likely, but not online. Just to actually play through it, give myself a challenge. But that was pretty fun. And Nintendo also, they didn't really show off anything new. I was a little disappointed with that. They had Splatoon 3 there, and like, I got in the line for Splatoon 3. That was the first thing I did. And the guy was like, you ever played Splatoon before? And I said, play the first one. I owned it. And he was like, okay, let me walk you through it. So we're playing versus. We go through, and I'm trying to figure everything out. And we got stomped. Absolutely stomped. And then the dude's like, okay, take this time because you got 2 minutes. Take this time to learn the character a little more. So I was practicing doing all that stuff. and then I absolutely annihilated the other team, and I got MVP of that thing. And the guy goes, "Well, you learned quickly." I was like, "It's not that hard. Once you show me the controls, I can figure it out."
Yeah, the controls usually haven't changed between all three of the Splatoons. They're pretty good. They've got a solid gameplay base.
Yeah, they really do. Like I was really impressed, and they had like a big game mode or something like that where everybody can work together. I didn't want to play that one. I wanted to play versus because that was all I knew anyway. But it was kind of fun. But PAX West overall was good. It was about 85% of what it used to be like before COVID. I look forward to seeing if that expands or not. Since E3 hadn't been around and everything seems to be going digital now. Gonna have to see what
means I can see all of the stuff in my pajamas.
It's fair. You don't have to deal with the crowds.
Yeah, for those of us with social anxiety and a love of pajamas. So
pajamas. There was actually people wearing those while they were walking around. So I mean, they just didn't have the social anxiety part of it. I guess.
If I have to be out in public, then I'm gonna have to look nice, and I'd rather just not do that sometimes with that amount of people.
Nintendo gave out a lot of they gave out free stuff.
Oh, well.
Lots of it.
Nintendo makes more than enough money to give people some free stuff.
Yeah, they gave us they gave us like a gold or brass coin as well for it. So I was like, I was gonna wait in line for a shirt, but it was an hour and a half wait, and then it started raining too, and part of the line was outside.
Part of it too, though, is like, well, do I really want to go to a thing where most of my day is gonna be spent in an hour line here, and an hour and a half line there, 2 hours over there? Some of it I think is along that line of thinking of I just don't want to do that.
Oh, I guess my thing, like I go to Disney World enough to where it's like I pick and choose.
Well, I think that there's still value in the option to go and going to those events and doing those things. I just think I think some people are very much more choosy now because of that kind of I just don't want to.
Oh, one of the things too that I know went on hiatus and we didn't know really what was going to end up happening with it, but Vampire the Masquerade Bloodlines 2 was announced while we were there. So it's back on. I don't know when it's supposed to be coming out. They also have a VR game coming out. And then they have a new version of the tabletop game coming out as well. London, I think is what that one is. So there is, I know that's something that Baka's a big fan of, is the Vampire the Masquerade stuff. So want to make sure I mention
I watched the trailer to the Bloodlines 2, and I have concerns. So,
well, it's still early.
Well, it's early again because they completely revamped whatever it was they originally
revamped.
You're welcome. Revamped whatever they were originally trying to do. So
that's funny. I know this is not revamped or anything, but one of the things that I started playing last weekend. You remember Back 4 Blood that came out last year?
Yeah, it was last year or the year before.
And we were like, well, we'll get it on sale or something. It doesn't seem like it's gonna be one of those hold our attention that long. Well, we have Game Pass now, and we're like, well, there's 4 of us. Let's try that out. That's super fun sometimes. I don't think it's my main game. I will play this with nonstop forever kind of thing, but it's definitely been surprisingly more fun than I thought it was going to be.
For the price of Game Pass, yes, it's a lot of fun. It's good, but unfortunately, Turtle Rot just didn't do good enough because they abandoned the game after 1 year, and it's still $60, and they only did 2 DLC packs. It's still buggy and kind of feels like they were just like cool, and then just tossed their hands up. And it's like, but look at Left 4 Dead 2. Look what you could have had going for long term.
Do we know anything if there's a modding community on Steam for that or anything?
I have no idea. I don't even know if they have it because they do so much with the online multiplayer stuff. With that game, you have to opt out of it recording your online chat because it's trying to do a safety feature where it keeps track of all of your conversations. And I'm like, I'm playing with my friends and I really don't want you recording me. So you can't play online without agreeing to be recorded even. So I don't know if they're going to let you mod the game in any way.
That's new. Because I don't remember that when we first started playing it.
It definitely was there 2 weeks ago when we started it up, and I'm like, oh no, everybody. First of all, opt out of this. Secondly, turn off your voice chats for in-game because we're using Discord anyway, so...
Yeah, there's some mods for it all over Nexus mods, like everything else, but there's nothing on Steam that kind of
Yeah,
helps
it's not.
that,
If
like,
it doesn't get a community there, it's not going to happen. I think that's because that's what the reason Left 4 Dead has done as well as it has is because the modding community has allowed that to just be a juggernaut in some ways when it comes to that type of game.
oh yes, like the modding communities is why Skyrim still sells.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, I'm pretty sure modding is why Starfield is going to be played for years and years to come.
Oh man,
Oh, yeah.
Starfield's one of those where it's like, I will play it. Baldur's Gate is eating all of my time. Like, I haven't even put any time into Saints Row at this point because I've been so into Baldur's Gate with all of my limited free time. So, damn it. That's on the radar. I guess at least winter's coming up, but I mean, Baldur's Gate's so huge. Doesn't mean there's going to be a lot of time for Starfield.
It's always going to be there, and you'll be able to play it eventually. But from what I've read, I haven't played it, so I can't say anything. You're not missing out on like Game of the Year from it. You're missing out on a good game, but you're not missing out on Baldur's Gate.
Well, it is what it is. I hope you're right, though. I hope there's a good mod community around Starfield because, man, that's definitely helped the longevity of things like Fallout 4. Because some of the mods you can get for that is just stuff that should have been in the game but wasn't, or things like that. I'm looking forward to it, though. I want to play it. I'm going to play it. I have Game Pass. I can play it for free.
And mine's downloaded on my PC. I still haven't touched it because I've been out of town and everything else.
I'll probably set it to download sometime this week, but I'm probably not going to
Starfield?
Yeah.
I would not. That first of all, it's a lot of space for something you're not going to use.
I mean, but then
You still have Saints Row and Baldur's Gate.
Yeah, but I have like 4 hard drives. I'm just playing the shell game with the C drive right now.
Yeah, I was gonna say, this is the one that's still struggling on her C
Well, I
drive.
don't even know why it's saving Baldur's Gate autosaves to my C drive when that's not where it's installed.
Because that's where all application save data goes to. Because that is Windows data that needs to be there.
Well, I hate it. Why? But that it doesn't autosave have my autosave games for some of my other games on that drive either.
Because they save differently.
Well, and that's dumb. Stop taking up all of my space.
It's probably because of the crossplay. It has to save in the Windows side of it.
Well,
so I mean that's how it works.
Yeah, well, my C drive's old. I'm gonna have to get a replacement for it anyway. It's 150 gigs.
It might be why mine isn't giving me any problems because I don't have cloud saves or anything. I have cloud saves turned off, so it is saving it differently than yours.
If I'm not mistaken, too, when it comes to Starfield, I believe that's one of the ones you have to install on an SSD.
Woo!
Okay, well that's fucking dumb.
It's just because the processor's so much faster on one.
Well,
I believe that's correct.
I guess that'll wait till whenever I feel like upgrading to get an SSD, which I need, but I mean they're not cheap exactly.
Chicken's looking it up now, but I believe it's correct.
It looks
2
like
terabyte for 100.
Where? How did you do that?
on Amazon. They're super cheap.
You said they weren't. That's why we've been waiting.
Yeah, now is time to buy them. We're gonna wait till the winter sale or Tech Monday or whatever the hell it is, Internet Monday or whatever the hell is after Black Friday.
Cyber Monday.
Yeah, that thing. We'll buy them when they get super cheap. Like they're cheap now, but you know, give it about 5 years ago before they were expensive. But now you can get 1-2 terabyte ones for not $800. So, so it's definitely time to get one. And part of the reason was that we got OEM versions of Windows way back in the day, which means back in the day when you bought that, you weren't allowed to install it on a second hard drive. When you activated it on the hard drive, you were locked into that hard drive, period. But since then, they've allowed you to reinstall Windows with your key on another hard drive. So they've opened that up. So that's why we can change our Windows one now.
Well, you can buy keys now for $20 of. So it's not that big of a deal.
Things have changed since we upgraded our PCs.
Well, we
7 years ago.
Definitely have that on the. I guess that's what we'll do for our Christmas this year.
Cyber Monday.
All right, look, Happy Christmas, I got you this thing for your PC, and you got me this thing for my PC, and let's upgrade. Fun. Although not fun. I don't like spending money.
Yes, you do not need an SSD to run this game, but you will be very sorry if you do not. An SSD is the minimum required for this game.
Well, that's fine. I'll get to it eventually.
Load times will take forever.
To be fair, that's like every Bethesda game.
Yeah, now make that even worse.
Yeah, well,
That's fair.
I already had time to read like half of a novel during load screens in Fallout 4.
So yeah, that's definitely important.
Well, I'll get to that eventually.
I'm gonna head to the news.
Yeah.
A little bit of news.
Yeah.
Speaking of Saints Row.
Yeah, I was actually just looking at the comments for that article.
Rip.
So the studio Volition, which is the one that just made Saints Row, is effective immediately is no longer. They originally said that they're going to be restructuring stuff at Embracer Group, so I guess this is a casualty of that.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, to be fair, the recent Saints Row, like I've still got it. I'm gonna play it. I'm sticking with it. But as it stands right now, for like the few hours that I've put into it, it doesn't have the charm that the previous ones had, and it feels like sometimes this happens when they reboot a series. They're like, we're gonna reboot and it's gonna be cool and everybody's gonna like it, but they lose a lot of the really core things that people liked about the franchise to start with, and in the sake of doing something new. And I kind of feel like that maybe is what happened a little with this one. Plus, they did their Epic release instead of a Steam release, which is definitely going to cut their player base. And they had a rocky launch. Like, they launched it and it was not in good condition. So I think they just had so many things stacked against them for that launch and so much riding on it. It just did not happen like it needed to for them to be successful.
When you do reboots or whatever, you need to look at other games that have done it right. Resident Evil 7 is like the best example of a soft reboot to a series that I can think. Because look at 6.
Yeah.
Now look at 7. You tell me
Now
that's not a reboot. No, you can look at 6. 6 is a really good game. It's not a good Resident Evil game, but it is a good game. It's a good game. It's fun. It runs well. It's just not a Resident Evil game. If you took Resident Evil out of there and just gave it like characters you love, you'd be like, cool, this is fun. I like this. But you stick Resident Evil on there and you're like, this doesn't really feel like it feels like it fits this universe. And then they were like, okay, cool, let's soft reboot, throw it to the other fucking side.
Yeah.
Okay, well, this fits better. This is a lot different. This feels good. So, and then when they did Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 4, Resident Evil 3. Resident Evil 3 did not work. Okay? Did
they
not
made a
work.
mistake. But they learned from it, because then Resident Evil 4 was way better for it.
Right. When you remake or reboot or do anything with the series title, you have to figure out what was good about the original.
Yes, what did
Use
people
that.
like about the original? Don't be like, what did people like about the original? Okay, tear all of that out. We need to make
do that.
Like, one of the things that I saw on a Reddit thread, actually, is people were discussing why they didn't feel like the Saints Row really did as well with the reboot, is because they tried to make the characters quote-unquote relatable, which, first of all, they're kind of not. They're pretty much cardboard right now. And maybe they become relatable at some point later on, but their big sticking point was like a throwaway comment in the opening where somebody mentions gotta pay student loans. And it's like, well, that means those people aren't gangbangers. And it's like, well, first of all, you're right. They're probably not. And saying that they have student loans doesn't really make them relatable. It sounds like an AI trying to make something sound relatable. But I don't need to relate to these characters. They need to be out there and kind of weird and, you know, slightly psychotic, because that's kind of also the draw to Saints Row. Like, Shaundi and Johnny Gat and Pierce, not the most rational people. Like,
I feel like the thing that Saints Row always did well playing it was that these are not people I would normally want to be around, but this game makes them likable.
Yeah.
and makes me want to meet more of them. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like
Oh
that's
yes, just like Baldur's Gate 3, where some of the characters like I don't really care much for these, but I want to see their story. I still want to
I feel like
still
in
want
Saints
to
4
see.
they had part of the early part of the game where the alien guy had taken your boss and put them in like this 1950s sitcom, and everything is very 1950s tropey, and
Mhm.
we've got the laugh track and everything. It feels like that is the mindset they took when they started writing the Saints reboot.
I
It's
do have
very
to.
like, look, we're
That'd be a
quirky young
great-
people having a conversation about our
I
money
think
and
that'd
student
be a great
loans.
twist. Let's be fair.
I think Saints 4 took the same route that Resident Evil did. They were like they just took a little too far off to the side. They're like, we should come back, and they took it too far to the left. It's like, okay, guys, you guys have to meet somewhere in the middle. For other games, yeah, the swing at the other side, yeah. One of the things that I read that one of the people at Volition, I think is the company,
Yeah.
when they were producing it, the company publishing it or the one above them came in while they were writing it and interfered with the development because they wanted it more about friendship
Oh.
instead of about the gangs. And it
you
was
could've-
kind of like a little bit of creative discrepancy when they were writing it, and it
Wow.
kind of instead of succeeding at one, it failed at both.
Yeah.
So it seems like, again, a company
weird.
not letting the studio make the decisions.
Yeah.
Because I think if they would have been fine focusing on the gangs and the people in those gangs, it would have been much better. Because, like, I mean, in the Saints Row, boss is just boss. Yeah, it's like just the same character, whatever. And then you've got good support characters around it, and then good characters outside of that too.
I think one of the missteps in this may also be how they're handling it. With the first Saints Row, which I'll 100% admit, I did not play all of that because, man, it was just not, like, I could
It's
not
dated,
at the
and
time.
you can't play dated games.
They
It's
tried to be
dated.
serious about the first
Well,
one too.
they made it
Oh,
a little
yeah.
more along the lines of GTA, which maybe is what they were hoping this would feel like, because it definitely feels like they tried to lean into GTA instead of Saints Row. But you had a gang that your character was coming into and like being adopted into, so you had people to look up to. Whereas with this one, you're not in a gang at all. The Saints either don't exist. I think they do. There's Saints Flow like merchandise and vending machines, so the Saints must exist somewhere, but not here, and you're not part of them or anything, and your friends are all three of your friends are in 3 different gangs, which that doesn't make any sense because they're rival gangs, so why?
First of all, thinking about how they wanted the development makes it a lot more sense and what you've told me, Griff. Now imagine
the
your
power
main
of friendship
character.
brings them together.
No, your main character is solo. All of your friends right now are part of their each gangs. You go through trying to build up a reputation. You start making friends with each of these gangs, and then you
But
get
I'm
the
not
stronger
making friends
influence.
with them. That's the
No, no,
problem.
no.
Is I'm part of Marshall's, which is
No, I
not a
am
gang. It's
talking
a
about-
mercenary army.
I'm talking about if they actually made it the way they wanted, like an
okay.
actual Saints Row. You were solo. You built the Saints. You got reputation with each of these groups with your friends, and then you bring them all in and you make the Saints to rival.
So basically
the
ends up
other
becoming
one.
an origin story of
Yes,
a gang
for
that
the
already
Saints.
exists.
Yes, for the Saint. Like your origin story for your
Wow.
character is making the Saints, and then your friends in the next game.
I guess it's
That's
kind of
where-
like if you think of real life Bloods and Crips being on the West Coast originally and then moving to the East Coast type thing.
Yeah, like you're the people that you're working for, Griff, are going after all of these other groups, and then you get fired from them, and you go to rally these groups together under the Saints banner. You get to be the gang leader, and then start taking territory back from the other group in Act 2. Like you could have done so much better. Look at that! I just rewrote the whole game right there. How quick that would have been.
Done.
Boom! Because these characters would have been fine if they would have been leaders of their
Now
own
somebody
gangs.
just needs to write this story with another game and not have Saints as the name, call them like, Halo Warriors or something, and then just go from there.
It could, because it would have followed the same style. Because I mean, in the Saints 3, you go and recruit the leaders of each of the groups instead of the whole groups themselves into the Saints, Instead, it just would have been making the Saints from all of these little fractured pieces into one giant gang.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much what it seems like it's gonna end up being eventually anyway, because since I work for a mercenary army and I'm already pissing off all the gangs, they're all gonna get mad at me, and then I'm gonna have to put together my own little homies, because I'll probably eventually get fired from marshals, so I'll be on their bad side, and I know that because I was driving through the marshal area, and I work for them currently. I'm currently their golden child. But I, like, nicked a car in the area, and their people came after me in force. So I know they're going to also be one of the opposing factions, eventually. I did one thing, and they're like, let's murder you. How dare you?
That whole story route would have been fine if they wouldn't have tried to put friendship into the main focus at the beginning. It should have just been your character building the Saints.
Well,
that's it. Then you make, then you build your friends like you did in 3, where you could bring everybody in. Instead of it just being like, we're all friends and I'm going to help each one of your gangs. And then we're all going to throw a cupcake party after we make one giant gang.
Yeah. Yeah.
Again, it feels like if that story is true and the bigger company did come in with a little bit more demands and screwed up the development, then yeah, it's their fault, not Volition's fault. Volition was trying to make a Saints Row game.
Yeah.
They just got strong-armed into going about it the wrong way.
Well, it definitely, like, there's quips from Boss that feel like Saints Row Boss, but everything around it does not.
My point is, if they would have went the different route, if they would have made it more about the gang warfare and territories and, like, the gang gameplay, it would have been better instead of it being friendship.
Well, whatever it is, what it is. I'll play it and get back to you and let you know if it ever hits the sweet spot of this feels like a Saints Row game, or if it just forever does not.
I wonder if it's gonna hit the Saints Row feel in like Act 2 or towards the after the big middling. We'll have to see. You have to keep us updated.
That's what we'll call it.
Because there's always like a climax or right before the climax where the story kind of pulls itself together and then throws you into the back half of the story where everything is laid out properly and then you can kind of see where we're going.
Big middling.
Yeah, no, I think that's funny.
Big middling.
What else in the news?
We've talked about some Baldur's Gate. Part of the news has come out. I think we kind of all saw this possibility of it coming, but I wanted to mention that they have announced it, that they have in the works of cross-platform multiplayer is in the works for currently PlayStation 5 version just came out, and hopefully later this year we'll get the Xbox versions of the games coming out. So
I think they're scrapping the split screen too, just to make sure they can get it out this year.
Are they?
I think so. Let me go see if I can find that article.
That'd be awesome.
I don't know why you'd want to play the split screen on a game like that.
Because it's a demand from Microsoft.
Oh.
Oh, opposite.
Microsoft. Really?
No.
Because I don't. You're gonna have to find me that article.
What the demand? No, I'll give you the Phil Spencer's review of it where he said.
Find me that video.
Yeah. So basically, what Phil said he said it's up to the developer on what they choose. The parity has to be between the Xbox Series X and the Series S. The developer wants to have the split screen, so they have to have it on the S2 if they're going to have it. That's what the deal is. So, but it's the developer that is wanting to have the split screen.
I don't understand wanting to have split screen on a game like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that doesn't seem like a couch co-op game at all. Especially, like, how do you, well, whatever. This just seems weird to me.
Yeah, I don't understand that either. But they are going to have it to where you can play multiplayer online eventually. Which
if you're on PC though, there's a mod that Chicken has mentioned that will let you basically break the amount of party members that you can have, so you can have up to 16 people play. Like, imagine some of those fights and how one-sided that would be with, like, you and even, like, 7 of your friends.
I mean, even in some of the very large fights where you have, like, several characters you have to fight against, you go, okay, you fight him, you fight him, you fight him, you fight him.
Yeah.
All the way, everybody gets one person that they're fighting against.
God, imagine how long that takes because it's turn-based combat, and you're like, okay, NPC, all right, now it's Bob's turn, it's Frank's turn, it's Larry's turn, it's Katie's turn. Like, oh my god, 16 hours later, we're back to the start of the combat round.
It's too funny.
Yes, okay, so yes, it has to be parody, but Larian is not doing it for the Series S, and Microsoft is trying to work with them to make it happen, which it probably won't, because the Series S is the crappy one, right? It's the one that can't run a potato.
Wow.
No, it can run more than a potato, but it is where it is.
It can't run a potato.
It is
Hard.
it is not as a powerful machine. No. So like where some things might run in 4K on one, it's only going to run on 1440p on the other. No, it runs in 1440p.
That was so savage. The crappy one. It runs a potato, right?
How many times have we heard the Xbox S having problems over the other one? Because it's like way back in the day, like we're old. You used to think of the Xbox Arcade and then the Xbox, like the Xbox 360, or the actual Xbox.
Okay, touche.
I just need to go get an arcade version. It's like, oh yeah, you get that one. It's a cheap one. It runs arcade games, and you can do stuff with it. Like hook it up to a potato.
Stop.
But I mean, it's good to have an accessible version of that, so that you can get it and run something.
Well, but I mean, even then, like if you've got, like in my case, I use it for their cloud gaming more than I do anything else, because I use it in my bedroom. So it allows me to be able to just stream the stuff, because I have good enough internet to do it. I know not everybody has that capability. I do find it interesting though that they're coming out with that new black one that's going to have the 1 terabyte drive in it. Which why this didn't have a 1 terabyte drive to start with, I don't understand. But since it's digital only, but I would have taken that opportunity to increase the processing power as well, because that's the only difference. The difference is your processing power. Between
but then at that point, what do they need to make 2 different consoles for?
Just same thing as PlayStation, one digital, one not.
I guess that's true. Mm-hmm. Everything's going to be digital. If they could get away with it, every company would only make digital.
But PlayStation, they just literally removed their Blu-ray drive out of it. Everything else about that system is completely the same.
Which I find funny. Most PCs these days don't even have fucking disk drives. I mean, I could have built mine without it. I mean, I've seen so many cases without disk drive slots in the front in it.
Yeah, mine doesn't have one.
Yeah, they're just starting to get outdated. And because PCs are all choice-based, they're just like, fuck it, whatever. If you want one, you can go find one somewhere else. But if you want to buy ours, we don't have it.
Well, you've got the other thing to think about, too, where this is not going to... it's the case for both systems, actually, now, where it would not have been the case for, let's say, PlayStation 4. Mm-hmm. With the Xbox, you can play back all the way to Xbox 360 games on the Xbox Series X. So games you already purchased, as long as that's being supported by whoever it was that made the game, to be able to work on the emulator, then that would allow you to be able to use it. So that's going to be kind of a deal. And then PlayStation 4 games play on a PlayStation 5. But the other thing is, too, at one point when the PlayStation 2 came out, it was the cheapest DVD player on the market.
Which is wild to think about.
It was the cheapest DVD player on the market, and so people would buy it, and it was an entire entertainment system that you could have at your house, and not everybody played games on it. People just played that, and then they had kids, and their kids played games on it. And then so I think PlayStation, Sony in general, just tries to make that as part of their system, because they have an interest in Blu-ray. They made Blu-ray, so it's like it makes sense that they would keep it on there. Where I think that, I guess because the Xbox One was pushed as an entertainment system as well. Which
ours is now. All it does is play Disney Plus for Nuggets.
It's definitely an entertainment system now.
So, I'm guessing that's kind of the whole concept and why you're going to still have it. I think the next system will probably have a have a disk drive on it, and then one after that will not.
Yes. 2, I would be surprised if the one after this next generation has.
Well, I mean, with the way that they treat discs, like it used to be the argument of, well, not everywhere has good enough internet to download and install it. But the thing is now you have to have internet anyway, because when you put the disc in, it's essentially just a key. You still have to download the whole game, which is like, well, at this point, why even sell the discs if that's how you're going to do it? There's not an argument anymore for, I want the one with the disc drive because I like to have a physical copy, because the physical copy is not actually the game.
There are games that I have in my library from Xbox 360 and the original Xbox that I have the digital copy of it because I own the other one. and Xbox picked up on that, and it's in my library, and I can download it directly from the internet. But I couldn't. I wouldn't. If I took that same disc and put it in, I'd be able to load it as well. But I don't have to do it. So I'm thinking
Yeah.
that's where they're eventually going. Is everybody tries to move their categories, their catalog over,
Yeah.
it'll still have available to them. So it's no, which is something that Nintendo doesn't allow you to do. I mean,
Nintendo just gives you, like, as long as you pay for it, they give you the huge catalog of their old console games with the Nintendo Switch
Right.
Online or whatever it
which
is.
they
so
added. I think they just added 4 more or something like that too. I saw
they
on
just
Little
keep
Big.
adding games and over, which is good. I mean, yeah, you got to pay for it. It's like having access to like GameFly. I haven't heard that in a while, or Game Pass or things like that. Like, it's just the way to do things now. Honestly, I think Nintendo's Game Pass version is the best because, one, they give you, oh my god, and two, they don't give and take access to games. They're just on their library. That's it.
With their old stuff, they don't really do that much on Game Pass either. They don't take this away because they're old.
Yeah.
The first party old stuff. But anything they have to license, yeah, you're gonna have that as an issue. Where everything's
Which is
first party
fair.
when it's Nintendo, pretty much.
Yeah, but it's not like authors go to libraries and take their books out when they run out of leasing.
I don't know. Have you been to Florida lately? I'm just.
Oh, that's not because the authors did that, though. That's because idiots did that.
Shit.
Let's see. Where are we moving from there? So the video game Stray, which won a lot of awards for this past Game Awards,
Another
is
one
getting.
still sitting on my 2 playlist.
So if you like kitties and technology, basically a cyberpunk kitty is what I would knock it up to based on the way the game plays and everything. It looks like there's going to be a Netflix movie made, directed by Nick Bruno. And I'm excited about this because there's going to be a lot of people that don't want to play the game itself. It's going to be an animated movie. So it should be, I think it'll end up being pretty good. And Annapurna, who is they're not the developer. They're going to be.
Does the cat
publisher,
talk in the
I think.
game?
No. Meows. It meows. That's it.
Meow, meow.
That's gonna. Well, it's a Netflix thing, so that should be okay. But it's gonna be a hard sell to watch. It's gonna be an hour and a half of watching a cat.
I mean, have
Well,
you seen
but
some
there's
of the stuff
robots,
on
too.
Netflix?
It's not just the cat,
like I
it's
said,
the
it's
robot.
Netflix, so I do not blame them. They take chances on everything, which is exactly what we
Okay.
need when it comes to the entertainment market. But it'll be a hard sell without having any sort of narration.
I'm interested to see too how they present the story, because one of the things that the game is it's a puzzle game. Essentially, you're having to figure out these puzzles as the cat by talking to the world and like the people, well, the robots in the world, and then making your way through the game. I'm interested to see how they can like translate some of that so people that play the game can kind of feel the same while watching the show, and then those people that have no interest in playing the game but just want to see a cat movie at the end of the day can still find it interesting.
Yeah.
But Annapurna is saying that they're looking at adapting some of their other video games into stories, which I like. Annapurna usually has a pretty good, most of the stuff that they publish has pretty good storylines, so I could kind of see that.
Well, and they've been doing pretty well. I think Chicken mentioned that the next Castlevania stuff from Netflix is on the way soon too, which is like
Yeah, Baka.
That's
Netflix
exciting.
Castlevania Nocturne. It is the Symphony of the Night and Rondo of Blood story arc. I think that's right?
Yes.
Okay. It takes place in that one. I think it's going to be 3 seasons, so you're going to get to see the before, and then the during, and then the after. It's going to be nice. Symphony of the Night is my favorite. So, and more Alucard. Who cannot complain? Who's going to complain about more Alucard?
Not me. I'm not gonna complain. I'm gonna
That's
watch
right.
the crap out of
Nobody.
that.
I've got to complain because I wish they would have gone over like Simon's
Hey,
story
give
or
them
something, too.
them some time.
They will, man. They will. They're getting there.
But the timeline wise, so Simon's are already gone and dead.
Yeah, but that
by
doesn't
the
mean that you
time-
can't do
Hey, that doesn't mean
a
that you-
prequel. That
Yeah, I was
doesn't
gonna say,
mean
you
they
can
have
go
not
back
done
and
that.
jump around. They could go all over the place.
And they're just gonna pick and choose and fill it in as they go, and I think that'll be all right.
Mm-hmm.
So that's fun. Look forward to that. So.
Yeah, is he the first one? The very first?
Who, Simon?
Yeah.
No.
The original,
No,
the
no.
original, yeah, it's protagonist of the original Castlevania and Castlevania 2. So yeah, they could go back and make his story the very beginning. Because to be fair, we saw the end of the Belmont clan. Like, it was just God, what's his name? I can't think. I'm bad with names. What was his name in the first?
Trevor.
Yeah, Trevor. We just saw Trevor, and his mansion was already destroyed. Like the Belmont name was there, but
that takes place during Castlevania 3.
exactly.
We
So
can
you go back,
backwards.
and you show the height of the Belmont clan. Boom, and then that leads into
And
the first
before all
series.
that, Remnant of Innocence is where it all begins with Leon Belmont.
Yeah, so you can't tell me that they don't want to go back. They're just riding on the Alucard train, and then they'll go back to show you the entire Belmont
Yeah.
start. Just perfect. Like, he just keeps bringing people in, because they did the first series justice. It is so good. If you were a
It was so
Castlevania
fun.
fan and any of it,
Even
it
if
is
you're not,
good.
I didn't know anything about the Castlevania storyline except for what little bit of Lord of Shadows I played. And I had no idea what I was in for, and it was super
The
good.
Lord of Shadows is a completely different
Well,
timeline.
see, that's a thing I didn't know, and it didn't matter at all, did it?
Meh.
So, that was, like, considering the age of some of the audience, like, that might have been some of their first exposures to it, too. So, you don't have to know anything about it. It doesn't, doesn't ruin the experience of the show as somebody who didn't know anything about it going into it.
Yeah, a good plot line's a good plot line, and you want to present it right. Like,
Yes.
it doesn't matter if you know something's there or not. You still got to convey that over, so you get multiple people watching instead of just the people that have played the games.
Which
Yeah,
there's
like-
two more Netflix shows that I want, the animated shows that I want to watch that are based on games. One of them is the Dragon's Dogma one. I'm not watching that until I finish the game, which I'm gonna finish the game, but oh my god, I have so much stuff to do right now.
There's the lady who wants to download Starfield.
I know. And then the Dragon Age one, they did a mini-series for a side story in that, and I'm interested to see how that one goes. But I think it's probably going to be okay. I mean, the new Dragon Age probably won't be, but whatever. Previous stuff probably will be fine.
Hopefully.
Rise and destruction of every one of my favorite series. No big deal. One of these two leftovers.
Yep. So this is just kind of something that we know is on the way, just based on the fact that our 7 years or whatever our cycle is.
Let's say both of those articles lead up to what you're saying.
I know, right? So Nintendo has supposedly demoed the Switch 2 at Gamescom from a couple weeks ago, and one of the things that they showed, I don't know if it's in this article or not because I didn't read the full thing, but one of the things that they actually showed on the Switch was that RTX 4K UE5 Matrix thing that came out on PlayStation and PC. Or maybe it was PlayStation and Xbox, but they showed UE5 running on the Switch 2. So that was very interesting to me because normally I think of Unity games when I think of Nintendo. So seeing something like a UE5 game running on the Switch 2, that's pretty badass, especially if they were running at a high resolution. I don't know what the frame rate would be, but that's still pretty awesome. I'm looking forward to seeing what Nintendo is going to end up doing with the Switch 2. Like how more powerful is this going to be than the original Switch?
Probably going to be a full across the board, like, huge upgrade, because not only has it been a long time since the original Switch release, and I've got the Switch OLED, but we've also got the Steam Deck too, which they can go and look at and be like, oh wow, this thing can run some serious games. It's a little bigger, it's a little heavier, but it's like dense. It feels good. So they might go that route where they feel more comfortable making it a little bit bigger now.
Yeah, and I'm interested to see where they're gonna, because I'm assuming it's gonna upgrade the games and stuff like the other ones have done in the past. When you do it, you've got Super Mario Wonder that's coming out. You've got the remake for the new Super Mario RPG. You have the WarioWare game that's coming out next year. You've got the Princess Peach game that's coming out, as well as Luigi Mansion 2 port of it. It was on the second one was on 3DS, right?
Yes, I think so.
Yes.
Okay.
I think so.
Because the first one was on GameCube.
Yeah.
Because that was their Mario release
Mm-hmm.
when they released the game or released the system.
Hey, it was super good though.
It was. It was. I wish they would release that. I would love just the first two together and
Like
make it happen.
remaster them and give it to us again.
I will say that their tendency to do systems like this is kind of normal, where they'll just do an upgraded version of their previous one, or they'll do something crazy. Like, what I want to know is, because I guarantee they've had their little subset of people working on the Switch 2 or whatever they want to call it, and it's a more powerful version. I want to know what those people in the back room are working on. Like, what's after this
You
console?
back there,
Because
what are you doing?
Because they're already working on like a prototype of what comes after this. You can't do the Switch 3.
No,
Like,
I
no,
think
you can't.
I think one of the things. So one of the things I didn't mention this earlier. You all knew this already, but very first day I was there, one of the things that I did was watch Reggie Fils-Aimé, former president of Nintendo of America, talk, and there was a shot of him, and above his head, he was showing a slide above his head. He said in Japanese, it means basically make something different, and he said that's Nintendo's policy, is make something different than everybody else is making. So, which is why we have innovation like the Wii and stuff that happen. I did find out too, and I thought this was very interesting. If you bought a Wii back in the day, it came with one set of games. Do y'all remember what it was?
It was Wii Sports.
Right. Reggie's the reason that was there. He fought for that.
I think I remember him talking about this too, when to push it is hard, because Wii Sports is the highest selling game in all of history, partially because it came bundled with the Wii, and the Wii is the highest selling, second highest selling console. I think the PS2 is the highest.
PS2 is number one. Yes.
Yeah, PS2 is number one, and that one's number two. So yeah,
and
on him.
Well, and they just came off a system that didn't do great, and then unfortunately the one after that sold 13 million. That was it.
Yeah.
But
why do we need that?
Yeah. But you know what? I think what they're going to end up doing, I think they're going to really dig into these retro games. I think they see money with these subscription services. I think the reason they're holding back on Luigi's Mansion, the first one, is because the next one's going to be the GameCube for the retro, but they're waiting for the Switch.
The next system was gonna be the GameCube. I was like, no,
they're finally releasing the Dolphin after all these years.
They're gonna redo it. We know
probably
you
why
wanted the portable handheld systems like the Switch, but we're going back to our roots.
It's probably why they pushed the Dolphin off of Steam, is because the GameCube is coming soon.
Yeah, probably. I don't disagree with that.
Yeah. I think you're right. I think they're going to wait until Switch 2 hits, and then they're going to go, and we're going to expand out and do this. And they got to make sure all their peripherals, because one of the things that, like, I got to try out the SNES controller and the NES controller while I was there. That, by the way, I didn't know this. You have to have a subscription to that service, to the classic service, to buy those.
Like, weird.
You have to log in Nintendo and
that makes it so that you can't get scalpers just buying all of them. You have to have a subscription service,
which is why it doesn't work with
to them.
And it does not work. And that's also the reason it does not work with the 7-day trial.
Yes, which Nintendo found a way to help mitigate, not get rid of, to help mitigate scalpers on that kind of stuff. You have to have a real sub, in order to have access to those, which is fine. You don't need them unless you've got it.
But they'll have to figure out how to make all that work. It's nice. I mean, if anybody's interested in, I didn't get to play the GameCube one or the Nintendo 64 one, but with those two, if you're old school gamer and you like those old controls,
I need
Let me
one, Griff. I've
the-
been debating so hard about getting one, but if I want Nuggy to start hitting games, I need to get him that baby control, that baby Nintendo, the original Nintendo controller, because
Baby
it's
Nintendo.
simple. It's simple and square and easy for you to learn on.
Mhm. Well, and they have, and one of the things that's really interesting is they made it look like normal, right?
He's looking it up
Mm.
right
The way
now.
you would.
I am.
And on the SNES version, for those that played the old SNES, there wasn't a lot of click to your L and R buttons at the top. These are really clicky. Like they've got a nice feel to them. Oh, it was so good. I was like, oh my god,
favorite pen.
Oh man, these controllers are just classic.
dude, they look so good. And they like I said, they feel really good. They've got a really they've improved them, I think. Of course, my hands were smaller back in the day, so I could be wrong. It could be wrong. I could just push harder now. I don't know. But yeah, I do think that's what they're going to end up doing is with they'll end up putting the GameCube on when they Switch 2 comes out.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. And then by 2030, right after 2030 is when we will see what the next major console from Nintendo will be. So
I think they're going to stick with mobile. I just don't.
they
I don't
have
think it's
to,
going to.
but I want to know how they're going to do it because the Switch 3 again, you're just okay. You
Well,
stabilize
and
your market.
Reggie
then.
explained the Switch to us too, which I thought was really interesting. He said what they did is they took people's feedback from the Wii U, and he said everybody loved the controls for the Wii. Everybody loved the fact that there was this television that you could watch or the screen that they could do stuff on. And everybody liked the fact that there was a console option that was there. So that's why we have a dock and a mobile version of it. They were mad because they couldn't take that device somewhere. And so that's why the Switch exists, which we all kind of guessed anyway, but it was nice to hear him confirm it.
Like if they were a Pokemon, they would literally evolve. Like the Wii U would evolve into the Switch. It would be the Wii U into the Switch is the final version. So like they perfected console evolution, in my opinion.
Oh yeah,
They just didn't perfect naming them.
No. Well, I liked their names because you got the Nintendo, the Super
Wii U.
Nintendo, the Nintendo 64, then the GameCube, then the Wii, then the Wii U, then the Nintendo Switch, then the Nintendo Switch 2, which I assume is going to be something a little funny because they never do numbers in there, short of the 64.
Yeah, but that was because 64.
It was a Nintendo 64-bit, yeah. So I'm interested to see. I mean, they didn't even go with Wii 2; they went with Wii U.
What did okay? Because they went from 2DS to 3DS. And for Game Boy, they went from
3DS,
Game Boy,
and then they had a 2DS that was a separate one, the cheaper version of the 3DS.
Yeah, and then they had in Game Boy they had Game Boy and Game Boy Advance, and then Game Boy Color.
It was Game Boy, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advance, Game Boy SP, the 3DS. Then the 2DS came out with that, and I think that was
they had the DS.
The DS.
Then, it was just the DS.
The dual screen.
Yeah. And they made
and then the 3DS added the 3D version. Oh, that's right. That's right. And then so I'm interested to see what do you call like if you can't call it Switch, what are you calling it? Super Switch? Like what do you call
the Switch U?
No.
Switch Advanced. You go to Switch Advanced.
The Switch,
maybe.
Oh, it was the Game and Watch was the original. The original handheld. It was called the Game and Watch. It was the original that came out with the NES. And then the Game Boy.
The Nintendo Switch Advance, then it would be the NSA. I'm just thinking of all of the acronyms of what you want to avoid. Avoid that one.
Think of all the conspiracy theories that would go along with it. I'm not buying that for my kids. It's government abuse.
If you were right, it is the Nintendo DS, then the 3DS, and then the 2DS along with that one. That was the 3DS was the last mobile one
because they released the 3DS twice. They released the new 3D.
Yeah, it was the new 3DS, and then they released the Switch. So
because I've got a new 3DS here that's a red one that I think had a total of 4 hours played on it because I bought it for my oldest child and she didn't play anything.
Edition.
I bet you play it a lot more often than Oak did.
So looking at this, like the release of the Nintendo consoles, they almost always released them in tandem too, until the Switch came out, which they merged them into one, because it was the
Why
Game and
release
Watch,
two when you can just do
NES,
one?
Game Boy, Super NES, 64, Game Boy Color, Game Boy Advanced, the GameCube, the DS and Wii, the 3DS and the Wii U, and then the Switch. They ran them in tandem until they could finally put them together, and now you've got them both in one. And I don't ever see them separating them at this point.
Oh, I don't think you'll separate again. 100%.
No, it's too good, and it runs well.
I think what they'll end up figuring out how to do, I think the next system that they'll have, like you asked earlier, Chicken, what would be the next one after the Switch 2? I think the next system after that is they figure out how to, because 8K will be gaming at that time. So I think at that point, what you do is whatever your dock is, boost that signal to the point that you can get 8K. But when you have it in your hand, you don't need any more than 1080p. So because how small the screen is.
Right.
So I think that you're going to do it, but it boosts that signal somehow and we'll send it back out. I think
by that point we'll have connectors that are a lot more powerful than the regular USBs and whatnot. So whatever data you're uploading through the connection will be a lot stronger. So it's like hooking it up to a PC at that point.
Yeah, I mean, I think they'll figure out a way to make that work for sure. You definitely don't need a 4K handheld.
Yeah.
Some people would argue they do, but those people are crazy.
OLED 1080p is pretty much the max you're going to get on that, and I would still argue that 1080p is hard to tell between it and 720p at the 7-inch screen or whatever it is.
Well, I mean, I'm sure we'll get a bigger screen. I bet they'll start coming out with accessories and whatnot like they did for the Game Boy way back today. You got a little light that you can attach on it.
You want the magnifying thing?
Glass. Oh, the extra controllers.
I had one of those for my Game Gear.
Game Shark on the back.
No Game Shark.
No Game Shark. Don't ruin my machine, man.
I remember those Game Sharks. You'd put it in and you'd put the game up underneath it and try to hack into the game. Oh, man.
Every time
the good old
somebody
days.
Came and bought one when I worked in game retail, I'm like, I hope this destroys your game.
The Wild West of gaming is what we like to call that.
They tried to get Nintendo to buy them when they invented that.
Nintendo's like, why?
Nintendo's like, nope. And they said, okay, we're going to go ahead and release it anyway. And so that's what they did. Then lost the lawsuit later on. But
is there anything else we need to talk about?
A short one on this one. The same people that organize PAX and a lot of the other major conferences that are out there, ReedPop and E3, so the ESA, have completely split from each other. They were the ones that they signed they broke up. They signed a contract a little over a year ago to go ahead and do the next 3 events. But of course, we didn't get an E3 this year, so it'd be the first one that they should have gotten together, and it didn't happen. So they're trying to go another way. So I'm interested to see what the ESA does on this. Are we going to get a 2024 E3, or are they going to wait until 2025?
Part of this game industry biz understands that the trade body is also working on a complete reinvention of the E3 show for 2025.
Yep.
Which is good. Step back, you're done. E3 as we know it is over. It is dead in the ground. If you want to reinvent it, you've got to come out. You got to give yourself some time and just come out with something big.
Well, you got to do it the right way. And I think right now the most ideal thing that they could do is especially if they're trying to, keep it here in the US is, and I said the same thing about PAX when they were moved south, there needs to be something in the middle of our country. Because we're so large, like whether that's Kansas City or somewhere like that, to where it's located almost, or Chicago, where it's located almost in the middle of the country.
You need to hit Chicago. If you're going to hit something, you need to hit Chicago.
I mean, wherever you can get the bodies at the end of the day.
Okay,
Chicago's
now we're on a watch list. Thanks, guys, for those phrases being put together.
You got to hit Chicago.
Get them bodies. God. Please, FBI and NSA, we're just talking about video game conferences.
Trust me, my NSA agent knows. He listens to me well enough. We have conversations. Well, I talk to him. He doesn't talk back. But
wait, you're a Nintendo Switch Advance person? Like, I'm confused.
Yeah, Nintendo is always taking feedback. Always.
Anything else?
No.
Nope. Okay.
No. I need to go back to Baldur's Gate and do some stuff. Mo.
I do too, because I got to stream tonight. And
I
it
also
won't be
have
Baldur's
to do
Gate.
laundry and stuff, so it's
Good
like
luck.
chores or
Good luck.
Too funny. All right. Well, we do appreciate everybody that hangs out with us every other week on If It Respawn. You know, one of the things you can do is hit that little sub button and then hit the little bell button. And then that way you know when this comes out every other week. Also, make sure you go to twitch.tv/EliteChicken313. Chicken's getting close. He's waiting for a game to come out. Waiting for Liza P.
9 days. You won't hear from me on the podcast until after I've started streaming. So next week.
So make sure you hit the button on his follow button on the Twitch. So that
Next
way you
Tuesday.
Next Tuesday. There you
Liza
go.
P's will be starting.
Liza P.
As long as I've got more time, which I should still be good on that. We'll see. But from that point on, I will start streaming on my off days. So definitely
Awesome.
look forward to that.
Awesome. Also, make sure you go to twitch.tv/MDBOaktree or kick.com/MDBOaktree. Either one. I stream on both of those. Or you can go to my YouTube channel as well, because I'm going to be streaming on that one as well, too. I'm on everything.
if it exists, he's there.
Yeah, pretty much. But just find me there. I do appreciate it. For everybody, from If It Respawn, I'm Oak Tree.
I'm Griff.
I'm Chicken.
Baka.
Bye.
See you.